I think it worked. Oh, hello, and welcome to episode 31, if you can believe it.
What?
This live, when we're going to talk about half the internet breaking down, all sorts of stuff on Netflix, maybe a truck, all sorts of good stuff. And we have a couple of amazing people joining us today. First of which is down below, and I'll get her to introduce herself. How long have we been doing this? I still can't point the right direction. From the prodigal daughter has returned after 3 months. Our venerable OG co-host.
Listen, I think the last episode I did was maybe 8 or 9, and when you just said 31,
it's not that bad.
Wait a second, really?
What's your name? You can introduce yourself or what?
Hello, I'm Tasia Custodi. You may know me from such YouTube channels as Tasia Custodi.
And to one side of her is the stalwart
William Silver, who broke his streak last week because he decided that he had to have a corrective surgery that he'd been needing for 3 years.
Brutal.
We may or may not get into that.
Oh,
yeah, we should get into that.
I have zero shame, Tristan. You know I'll tell that story.
I don't know if it's that kind of show.
I want to know the details of what you coughed up earlier. And returning for his second appearance, the founder of fabulous Flix, none other than Ged Smythe. And I pronounce his last name.
Well, hello there. Oh, yeah, you almost got the point. That's great to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Great to have you back, Ged. So, wow.
And hold on. This is my first meeting with Tasia.
Oh,
like, is it?
This is the first time. Yeah, I've never met Tasia.
I was like, hi, nice to meet you.
Why
are you karate chopping me? Yeah.
Thank goodness we don't have an audio version of the show yet, because this will make no sense to anyone. All right, well, let's jump into it. We've got a bunch of stories here. We've got, a certain quasi-celebrity has a heart out in less than an hour here. So,
Ged.
What did I do?
Yeah. Okay. So it's actually amazing that we're able to stream on some of the platforms that we're streaming on this evening, given that Facebook was offline for 6 hours yesterday, which of course didn't just take down Facebook. That takes down Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, and of course their VR, virtual reality platform, Oculus, as well. And it's all due to quote unquote networking issues. There's some DNS configuration stuff that went on. The DNS system, the domain name server system, which is kind of acts like a giant phone book for the internet, translates the web addresses that we type into our browsers into strings of numbers. Some poor schmuck at Facebook was just doing their job and hit the wrong button somewhere and accidentally deleted or reconfigured some DNS files. There's a particular type of file, I think it was known as BGP files, something that I used to run my own DNS servers from our basement. So, but I never got into BGP. I think that has to do with larger networks where you've got the internal network for your corporation, your organization, and then how that interfaces with the outside world as well, like of the internet. But the problem is that this error also took down a bunch of their internal systems too, so they couldn't even talk to each other in the organization. So quite the nightmare. So Tasia, let's start with you, since you are the official Momentous social media correspondent. How did this affect your life yesterday?
Well, first, the other crazy thing was not only could they not internally communicate, but many of them couldn't even get into the building. So whoopsie doopsie. And second, I'm not really sure about the networking issue thing. Like, can we just acknowledge that the whistleblower's name was released like the day before and like all the documents released, and then it's like, boom, the next day everything goes down. So it's interesting timing. But to be honest,
get your tinfoil hats, folks.
But it's, for me yesterday, honestly, I didn't even know until like 4 hours into it because I was on a shoot. So it was the perfect timing for me because usually I'm on it all the time. But yeah, all of my influencer friends and people that make money off of Instagram in particular were losing their minds. And my biggest question was like, how many users ended up being active on Twitter in that 6-hour period? Because I feel like they exploded. They had some really funny tweets. Everybody had these like memes waiting to go for when Instagram came back up and when Facebook came back up. So, it's funny to laugh about, and that's fine, unless that's your full-time job, which somebody at Instagram referred to it as a snow day because they couldn't do any work.
It's almost like they were trying to recreate the olden days of Twitter, where you'd often have what's the fail whale error message show up on twitter.com, or they just couldn't handle the traffic. But this isn't, for what we know, a traffic issue. The official story is that it was a router configuration issue, like we mentioned. But as you point out, Tasia, this comes on the heels of the story we talked about last week with the internal memos being leaked from Facebook about the known harms to certain demographics, especially tween and teenage girls, especially from Instagram. And as we discussed last week, this hasn't really been so much of a secret. Like in the classes that I've taught on social media over the years, we talked about how Instagram can be the most damaging to one's self-esteem, just because you're looking at everyone's perfect lives and comparing them to your sad, lonely one sitting in your mom's basement. So whether or not this, so do you so what's your working theory then, Ms. Conspiratorial Tasia? Good to have you back.
I just think it's fishy. Nobody else thinks it's fishy. Like,
do you think
the
they got
timing of this?
So you think it's a self-own, or that they got attacked by someone, or what?
I don't know that it's necessarily like someone from inside infiltrated. I mean, I don't know what's more likely. Like, was it an outside hack, or was it someone from the inside that is a supporter of the whistleblower that was like, "Go girl, get him"? Like, I have no idea.
I'm pulling a plug. Yoink.
Right. Like, it's just really bizarre because, like, typically when these things happen, like, the employees don't get locked out of the building. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that to me was like, okay, hang on a second. So that to me was kind of the thing that was like, this is very interesting. And I wouldn't be surprised if in the future something else came out or somebody takes credit, and whether that's real or not, like somebody's like, oh yeah, I did it, but what hackers can do, come on.
All right, duly noted. So
you don't think so? I'm the only one that thinks that.
Well, it's a question of,
it's a weird coincidence.
It's a question of, is it incompetence or malevolence? So
here's
the timing is funny. Yeah.
Here's the thing. So where I work with a lot of developers and backend systems people and server people. This was super interesting because I think the general public doesn't know how much everything is a house of cards. It certainly is fishy, but for us who deal with systems, it's very believable that someone could press the wrong button and shut everything down. I was also working at a certain retailer that Ged has some experience with with their web systems. And just before Christmas, someone put in the wrong piece of code and shut down the online store. And basically that person was fired on the spot. It is very easy to mess everything up with a keystroke. Now, this was catastrophic the way, and I got an article sent to me this morning from one of the backend systems people who was super into this and interested about the sort of breaking down what happened. It is remarkable, and it was a very set of circumstances that had to happen. So it is a little fishy, but it's also super interesting that this house of cards all fell in that way.
Ged, you've changed jobs in the last number of months. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how much you're using online tools, and were you affected by this outage at all?
I specifically wasn't, and rather than, sorry, I'm totally going to jump back every sec because I want to look at it from a slightly different perspective and a slightly different topic. When things came back online, the thing that boggled my mind was how visibly upset the end user was by not being able to use Facebook. And a really, really good friend of mine I went to university with 1,500 kilometers north of me in Thunder Bay, made a comment like, how can you be so mad of this social platform you pay nothing for? Like people were visibly and visually upset because their Facebook went down. I want us to think about that for a minute, because obviously there's people that make a full-time living off Facebook, and I mean that is an amazing way to do your thing. That's incredible. But for 99% of the population, Facebook is the thing where people in our demographic spend far too much time during their day on looking at things that really don't benefit their life in a lot of ways, and people were pissed.
And what's interesting about that?
What is wrong with us? What is
What's
happening
interesting
to the point where our free service goes down and we are ready to lose our minds?
What's
Exactly
interesting about
what
that
Facebook
too?
wants to happen.
Yeah. What's interesting about that, guy, is
Go ahead, Will.
is my perspective on it from someone who works in the web industry. Is all I think about is the stress and freak out that a whole building full of people must be experiencing, because I've been there. And it's like, no one's more upset than the guys in the back and the gals in the back trying to figure out what the F happened. Everything's down. People are freaking out. And as Tasia said, people can't even get in the building. This is a serious like code red. And
For sure.
these people's jobs are on the line,
And
so that's where my mind goes. I can't believe people I can't get onto Facebook for 5 minutes.
And that's the thing. I think there's a ton of relevance there, and that is an extremely, extremely valid point. I'm thinking more about the average donkey, pardon my language, who's literally sitting at home, who's pissed because they can't get the update from the feed of the person they're stalking on Facebook right now. Or Instagram. Like it's mind-boggling of how upset people are. Like, guys, other than the people who do this for a living, again, totally different. But it's Facebook. Calm down. Like no one died. Like we're not talking like a legitimate tragedy here. Like you can't see the latest update from the female or male you're stalking on Insta Reels. Like take a deep breath, bud.
Well, and it speaks to the whole notion of, is Facebook really dying? We've talked about how TikTok is eating away at Facebook, and Snapchat a couple of years ago was going to be the big bad threat, and of course Facebook simply copied a lot of their best ideas for Facebook and Instagram. But Facebook continues its slow growth over time. They're pushing 3 billion monthly active users. The thing is, the total number of internet users continues to grow, so they're benefiting from that too. But to your point, Ged, is that there's a lot of folks out there, especially the quote unquote normies, for whom Facebook is the majority of their internet experience, and for a lot of the super techie folks or the cynical
their
types,
day.
Well, exactly.
Or
but
their
for a lot of folks,
day.
But a lot of us can't understand that because we're doing, other stuff, and Tasia's got stuff going on Twitter and YouTube and this and that and the other place, and Facebook is only like one little piece of the puzzle. So
for sure.
But for a lot of folks, Facebook is it. Now they've got to watch out for TikTok, because TikTok just crossed the 1 billion monthly active user threshold recently. So they're a third of the way there, but they're growing like stink. So it's it just also goes to show you like how big of an impact it happens when these outages happen, no matter how they happened. And Tasia, we look forward to seeing some receipts next week for your theories.
I'm going to take credit for it right here, right now.
Yes.
It was me.
A couple of quick follow-up stories. Windows 11 that we talked about a few weeks ago finally actually has been released. And of course, none of us here are really running Windows on a regular basis. Gray runs it on his gaming PC, and a regular guest of ours, Jamie Reynolds, is a daily Windows user. So maybe if he's got it installed if either of them have it installed in the next few weeks, we will get updates from them. Anyone in any of your social circles updated to Windows 11? And what do you normally do for yourself personally until others in your sphere to do regarding major software updates. Will, let's start with you.
Well, I don't know too many people who download Windows 11. As you know, I brought up the sad story before. It maybe also tying into this is that Mac also is going through a new update. Tristan, I think I shared with you, I got no fewer than 10 messages, emails, personal things to not update because I do a lot of music and DJing, and Serato is not. Serato is one of my main sort of DJ softwares, and it is not prepared for the Mac OS update. There's been numerous public service announcements saying, please do not update. Tristan, I think I sent one to you, which was kind of humorous. But yeah, so maybe not quite Windows 11, but I am forced to wait just because of my major pastimes. So I personally don't update all that soon, and many people I know don't update right away.
And in your institution, the organization you work for, I imagine they wait months, if not years, right? There's some organizations that are still on Windows 7, not even Windows 10 yet.
Yeah, we're a couple versions back in terms of that. I've been told also not to update. I use Mac at where I work, at the institution I work. There are people who use Windows as well. We've been told not to update. Now, having said that, the funny thing is we work on like web software, which you have to keep very up to date for things like, WordPress or Contigo and all these sort of CMSs and Drupal and things like that. You have to keep all that stuff up to date, but the computers you actually have to be a bit careful about.
Yeah, so I remember one of the organizations that we worked for in the past that they were still running Internet Explorer 6.5 for years and years and years after it had been deprecated. So, institutions can take a while to organize things, especially when they have custom software installed. And to your point, Will, macOS Monterey had the public version hasn't been released yet. Like there were public betas, but the official release is still to come, and probably sometime this month, perhaps timed with an October Apple event. Ged, you're on a Mac as well. What's your general policy when it comes to updating your system, or or what you've heard from friends around you that might be on Mac or Windows?
Well, I made the epic bogey of doing the update, and I can attest that you should not. It is choppy. It is not functionally over. I was actually slightly concerned about doing this thing tonight because I literally needed to run the update, shut it all down, and let it take a nap for a couple hours, which in all my years running Mac, and I have a brand new MacBook Pro, I don't know if I've really ever experienced that. So first got to put my hand up. It's my fault. I made that rookie mistake, but my method, my theory is the same as the rest of you guys. I mean, give it a moment, because whenever there's a something update, there's always a something update that will fix the mistakes.
It's big time. So which Mac update did you apply? Because was it Because I didn't think Monterey was out yet. Was it just one of the more recent Big Sur updates?
It was just one of the Big Sur updates. It literally there was an update maybe a week ago, and the one that came up 48 hours ago, and I made the mistake of attempting to multitask, which most people of my species don't do well. So I had my work computer, which is Windows, and then my Mac beside me. And I'm like, oh, update. As soon as I hit update, there was a curse word, and it was one of those, no. Oh no.
And whatever you do, sometimes people hit the.
Your shaking of judgment is well warranted. I don't pass any blame.
Oh no, not
me.
Not judging at all. What I was going to say is that sometimes people. Oh, was that Tasia? Oh, well, she is.
Tasia, I can see Tasia's like, you idiot. Like, yeah.
Well, Tasia and I have our own experiences with Big Sur.
Yeah, no, Will and I have both been there already, so that's why I'm shaking. Like, no, don't do it, man, don't do it.
I take full accountability. Yeah.
Well, that's the
even
thing,
looking at the sheet for this would freeze and go crazy. I'd literally have to shut Safari down, give it a minute, start it back up, open a couple links when I was prepping for this before it froze again. Like, it is not good.
And and you make that joke about going no and wanting to stop it. One of the mistakes that some people make is that they have a change of heart in the middle of an upgrade, and that's even worse because you can actually break your machine doing that if it doesn't get a chance to like fully complete the update. So now Tasia, you are again probably more Mac oriented in your workflow. How long do you wait before applying a major, like in the annual update to your relevant hardware to your video production workflow?
I'll typically wait until there's like a minor update. So like say if it's something like Big Sur, but then it's like, you know, like when you do your iOS and it's like iOS 15, then wait till it's like 15.1 or whatever it is.
Same
generally. Yeah. Sometimes if I have to do certain things and I can't, but typically, especially though, after learning my lesson on, like I've always done that on smaller devices, but after learning my lesson with Big Sur, and it completely screwed my screencasting software that's not compatible anymore, which I use all the time. And there's nothing I can do because I have to wait for the screencasting software to now be compatible with Big Sur. So after that, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to hold off on any more updates. So it's let people test it first. You know what I mean? Because the thing I always say to people is, anything new, there's going to be bugs. So like wait till the next iteration, wait till whatever. I even feel that way with hardware. If there's even a major hardware change to something, like Apple redesigns the iPhone or the iPad or something, it's like the first iteration of anything is always like, yeah, sure, it's cool, it's new, I want it, I have FOMO. But they're going to then have it out in people's hands. People are going to say, we wanted this instead, or you should have done this. And then the next iteration is always going to be better. So that's kind of my general rule.
And just
very similar to the car
FOMO
world
is fear of missing out. Just in case you're listening, Mom. FOMO, fear of missing out.
Yes,
just we got to decode the jargon here. Go ahead, Get.
I was just saying it's very, very similar to the car world, and I know that there's a car topic on the list. So if it's cool, I'm going to leave that, and then we'll go back to that when we're talking about the vehicle. But that exists all the time in the car world, and I spent the better part of 10 years fighting some of those battles. So
I think I'm probably, it sounds like I'm the most conservative of all of you when it comes to updates on my main machine, my iMac. I'm still running Catalina, which is almost 2 years old now. And when Monterey comes out, I'll upgrade to Big Sur. Finally, there's some things about Big Sur that still bug me, especially as regards the task reminder management and things like that. They've removed a bunch of options that I used all the time, so that's a little annoying, and I'm trying to just delay that as much as possible. But on my MacBook Air, which we're streaming on right now, and I use on the couch and when I'm out and whatnot, that one's on Big Sur because it's shipped with Big Sur. And being an M1 Mac, there was no way to downgrade to Catalina on that puppy. But Catalina is pretty darn solid. So yeah, I just think the general rule that I tell people, especially regular folks out there that don't need to be early adopters, is don't wait. So when say we've got iOS 15, that's just out now, and I say don't wait till 15.01 or 02. Wait till 15.1, like you mentioned, Tage, like the next major, and even maybe 15.1.1 or something like that, right? Because it's not just the bugs that are in the operating system software, but it's the compatibility with any other third-party software that you might be using as well. And some developers aren't as quick to update things, especially if they're smaller and they create more specialty software. Sometimes even the big players like Adobe can take ages and ages to update things. They still don't have all the Adobe Creative Cloud apps updated for M1 processors for Macs, for example. I mean, that's not an OS thing as much as it is a hardware thing, but I mean, we're almost at a year for that, and that's Adobe. Mm-hmm. So yeah, If you're not in a rush, if you don't absolutely need any of the hot new features, then just take it easy. Turn off automatic updates on your phones, your tablets, your desktop, your laptop computers, or maybe set to download only, and that way you have control before it just goes ahead and does stuff. There's so many people I know say, "Oh, it just updated for me." It's like, well, that's a setting, and and of course the vendors like Apple and Microsoft like to keep everyone updated, and Google, of course, for security reasons, because a lot of these updates have security elements to them. Now, that being said, there are often individual security updates that you can apply that for the previous versions of the operating system that don't require you to go to the full new version. So always keep your eye open for those. So like I'm still getting security updates for Catalina on the Mac, for example, and even older ones. So usually if it's within 7 years or so, the vendors are obligated to keep supporting, at least from a security point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of updated software, we've, well, actually, there's a little tip here that we'll include in the show notes. One of the big changes with Windows 11, part of the aesthetics that they've really continued to refine. They had the big change in Windows 8 with the Metro interface, the tiles. They had to dial that back quite a bit. They skipped 9 for some reason, went right to Windows 10, which was pretty refined. Windows 11 even more so. But one of the things they did is they moved the start menu and the other taskbar items to the middle of the.
TJ's out.
I'm back.
TJ's
back. Thought maybe he was in the middle of an update or something.
It was like so
rookie
dramatic.
mistake.
Yeah.
So they moved the start menu and the taskbar to the middle of the screen. It's like, what are you thinking, guys? I mean, and Gray had mentioned a couple of weeks ago, it's more kind of Mac-like that way because the dock on the Mac tends to center, unless, of course, you maximize the size and it fills to the corners. Now, I don't know if that's what they're going for necessarily, but I think the problem here, by moving the start menu away from the corner, it totally screws with people's muscle memory. And it also, you no longer benefit from what's known as Fitts Law. And what Fitts Law says is that if you're able to move your cursor to any corner or edge of the screen, and you basically have until infinity, because it'll stop. So you can just slam your cursor to one side of the screen and then go down, there's your start menu. You don't have to hunt for the start menu. Get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Same like the Apple menu in the top left corner of a Mac. You just slam your mouse up to the top of the screen, and you've got all your menus there, including your Apple menu. That's one of the reasons why Apple has never gone to the floating window system with the attached menus like there is in Windows, is to take advantage of Fitts Law. Your menu bar is always going to be at the top. You just slam your cursor right to the top, and then click around, and you can access those menus without having to carefully figure out where your mouse is going to be on the vertical plane there, the vertical axis. So it's strange that they're doing this, and they have made it so it's a thing that you can turn on and off. So there's a little link that we're including for folks if you want to put the start menu back where it belongs. Gosh darn it. There you go. Sense. Yep. It's riveting news, I know. All right, so other update this week. Android 12 is here, sort of. I don't know how people can put up with this stuff in the world of Android. You get an update and you might not get it on your phone for weeks or months or even ever, depending on how old your phone is, because you're beholden to not only the device manufacturers, but sometimes even the carriers as well, as if your phone is on contract. And whereas we're right from the beginning with iOS devices, there's a new update and you hit update and it does it. But so I've got an Android phone.
There are device limitations. There are device limitations with Apple.
Well, yeah, but it's usually years and years.
Yes.
Like I said, 6 or 7 years or sometimes more. But with Android, most Android, and this has become like a meme online. You're lucky to get 2, maybe 3 years if you're lucky. The Google Pixel phones tend to be the best supported because those updates are coming right from Google. But again, if you're running like a Samsung phone, or let alone like a Xiaomi or a OnePlus or a ZTE or something like that. And if you're locked into a certain carrier, I have an Android 6 phone that's stuck on Android 6. I think it went from 5 to 6, and that's it. Nothing newer. It's on Bell, and it should have at least gone to 7 or maybe 8, but no. So I don't know how people live with that because of the device makers, and sometimes the carriers like to add all their own stuff to it, their own custom UI, sometimes their own crap apps. I know some of the carriers here, like Rogers and Telus, have special apps they like to install on certain devices. And Apple, just out of principle, said no, you can't install crap on our phones. But with Android's a different business model. They just give away the operating system, and you have to follow a few rules, and then anyone can put it on their phone. So it could, if you're an Android user Android 12 coming soon. We talked about a bunch of the refreshed features, and a lot of it's on the surface. Looks very pretty. We talked a lot about that in June, May or June with the Google event. Tasia, was there anything that you saw in Android 12 from what we talked about a few months ago or more recently that would tempt you to move over to the dark side? Because I know you're pretty Google heavy, like Google ecosystem heavy as it is.
Okay, so like I have the Pixel 5a,
Mm-hmm.
and
how did you get that, pray tell?
Because I'm an influencer. No, I'm kidding. Ew, gross.
You just said it. You said it. And you were talking about your influencer friends a few minutes ago. You're deep in the muck.
Gross, guys. Like, how did this happen? Just take me out to pasture. So I was sent it to test it, basically, like test the camera system and stuff like that. So no is the short answer. I love the Pixel 5a camera. I have an iPhone 11 Pro. The Pixel 5a camera blows it out of the water. So now, like, I carry the Pixel 5a with me. I don't have a plan on it or anything, but just to use it as like another camera, because certain things like wide angle and night sight and things like that are just so much better.
Wait a second. You're saying it blew a 2-year-old phone out of the water? How could it possibly do that?
The 12 has the same camera. So and by the way, the 13s and 13 Pros aren't that much better, to be honest. So like to
clarify,
the
13 has the 13 Pro camera system in it. They just don't have the telephoto lens, and the 13 Pro system is blowing people away. So, yes, I'm waiting for your videos on that. Your fair videos.
It is lovely.
I'm not upgrading to that device, and I have my reasons for that. I don't think what they offered in the 13 is enough to make me upgrade from an 11 Pro. It's just not.
That's only 2 years.
For the average user, you are not going to notice the difference. We might, because we live and breathe this stuff. Sorry.
Finally.
Canceled. Wow.
I said the S word a few weeks back, and boy, did I get it afterwards, Tasia.
I'm going to have a talking to after this. But like for the average consumer or someone that's not using the device for, video production or, semi-professional photography or something, they're not going to notice the difference. So to answer your normal question, no, the only thing I've really moved over to is like camera-wise, I'm using the Pixel 5a for like 95% of my stuff. But daily driver, how I run my business and my lifeline is always probably going to be Apple.
Gotcha. You bring up a good point there. Most people most people don't upgrade their phones every year or two. That's usually like an early adopter, tech nerd kind of thing. I mean, and I'm a reasonably early adopter, but I'm on the year 4 of my iPhone 10 because it had a lot of headroom built in. That's the thing, is like the phones are getting better and better, lasting longer and longer. Especially like I got the battery replaced on it. It was like $100 or something, but that, extended the life quite a bit. It still functions pretty well. There's certain apps, again, the operating systems and the apps are always designed for the latest, fastest hardware. So things do slow down over time. And it's not a conspiracy. It's just called technological progress, right? So this is probably the year that after 4 years that I'm going to be updating. But other folks can, even I know people that make their phones last even 5 or 6 years because they're just getting that good. So the year over year updates don't seem that dramatic. But once, again, like you said, normal folks, they do that upgrade after like 4 or 5 years. It's like, because especially in the camera systems, they are really starting to see some interesting stuff, both on the Android side. Our friend of the show, Jamie, has the Galaxy S21 Ultra from Samsung. Camera system on there is remarkable. And they're in this kind of like a race, because they release 6 months apart from the iPhones in the fall. The Galaxies come out in the spring, so they're always just like one-upping each other every 6 months. And then once a year we get Pixel, and Pixel manages to do amazing things, mostly from the software side. They keep the same sensors for a couple of years, but keep tweaking the software. The computational photography has been a game changer for smartphone cameras. And so we're seeing advances in the photo side and the video side. And that's one of the places where Apple really has the advantages on video. But most people don't do tons of video. But influencers might.
No.
Yeah.
And the other thing though too is like, sorry, Will. The other thing
Sorry,
too
Wendy.
is with it, like I remember when I upgraded to the 11 Pro, and I vividly remember that Apple event, and I was like all in, and I immediately was like, I'm getting this camera, this device. I need all of this in my life, and this is going to be my second camera on shoots and all this stuff. And to be honest, like listen, I can complain about all this tech. It's amazing, right? What we can do with these devices, but like, unless you actually already, and this is just from my perspective with the 11 Pro as an example, and I suspect the same is going to be a lot, with the 12, the 13, and so on. Unless you already have a knack or a knowledge or a know-how on how to tweak the settings that natively come with it, and also how to use apps, whether they're partner apps or third-party apps, you are not going to get the same photos and the same video that you see Apple showing you at their events. Those are professional photographers, they're professional directors and videographers and cinematographers. We are not. And so it's like, that's just something also to keep in mind when people are upgrading devices and they want the newest best thing. It's like, you really always have to think about, how do you use the device? So like, in your mind, go through your day and say, what do I use this for mostly? What can I use this for? What is my job? What is my business? And go from there. Because most people I know are like you, TJ, like they have older devices, and guess what? They're great because they don't care. Like the camera to them, any camera is great. You know what I mean? Like when you think of what we had even 5 years ago, any camera right now is great. Does that make sense?
Of course.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember
Yeah.
I remember at CES with a friend of the show, Andy Barrar, he and I in 2011, we shot 33 interviews on my iPhone 4S with an external microphone
Yes.
in 3 days. Like some of the colors are a little blotchy, and the resolution was okay, but we just did it. It was a run and gun, and we've made improvements since then. But people just doing that with their smartphones, it's amazing what they can do. Sorry, Will, and then Ged.
Sure. I was just going to say I upgraded to the 13. I think it's pretty awesome. But
Did you get the Pro Max?
I did.
And did you get it yet?
Yeah.
Holy crap! And
it's as big as my face.
Huge. Yeah.
And you didn't realize you were getting the Max, did you?
Yeah. No, I didn't. This is partly package deal. We all upgrade at once to save as much money as possible, and it's tied into all sorts of things, the way that the cable phone companies do it these days. So there was upgrades across the board on all sorts of things, not just phones. So I didn't necessarily need the phone, although it was a pretty big upgrade for me because it's been a few years. I don't know the Pixel very well, but the camera is pretty cool. To your point, Tasia, I'm not seeing it as a business purpose. I'm seeing it as funsies. I'm seeing it as something to take cool pictures of my cat. Obviously, I have a DSLR and use cameras to do some of our video work and things like that. There are some cool things you can do with that camera in terms of rack focus and stuff, but it is a little janky when you start pushing it. You can see the fudging that's going on. I can see the fudging at the borders when I'm trying to pull some rack focus. It is not the same as having a real camera and doing it. If you're, I hate to say this, if you're sort of the 1% like us who do this for a living and can see those problems, you can start seeing where it's breaking and where the software is forcing it to do certain things, and it's not in the lens. It's the software is forcing it to blur at certain points. So to your point, everything is good in a demo. If you start going out there in the field, you might not be able to make it work perfectly. You can get it pretty close. I've gotten some pretty cool shots. I think, TJ, I sent you some video, nice cool video of my cats blurring in and out as they go in and out of focus. But certainly, honestly, I can
your cat videos just blur together in my mind.
But you can certainly see where, to your point, Tasia, the problems are. The other thing, Tristan, I wanted to dial it back a sec. Again, I'm in my personal life, or my professional life. I also do a lot of web design and things like that. And one of the agencies that I work for, there is a big problem developing for Android because there are so many flavors of it, because there are so many different versions. And I remember 10 years ago when we all worked at the same agency. I won't dox the name, but when we worked all at the same agency, there are very few Apple sort of operating systems that people want, 3 to 4. The flavors and number of Android systems that Android users are on, it's like 50 or something. There's so many sub brands and so many sub installs and versions that it is very hard to develop for. And I think that also hurts Android in many ways. It's gotten a lot better than 10 years ago, yes, but it's still a problem. That's always been Apple's strength, is because they control the hardware and the software, and they have very set releases, and they control those releases that they're able to implement their apps and their software much more effectively. But I'll get off my soapbox now.
Yeah, and we've talked about how Google has worked to try to move some of the features, operating system features, into Google Play services to keep some of the older phones engaged and compatible as much as possible. Ged, what were you gonna add?
Just kind of my quick 2 cents on it. I had an 11 Pro and did upgrade to the 13 Pro. And the two things that I have enjoyed so far is I do like the kind of jumping in hertz on the whole swishing of the screen. From a user perspective, it is super slick. Can you
explain that a little bit, just for the mums at home? You're talking about
sure.
the promotion, the variable refresh rate. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, so it's basically variable refresh rate. So as you start to move the screen quicker, the device is able to keep up. So you're not going to experience any lag or any type of slowing down between screens. Does it really matter? No, it just looks super slick. But it has been something that I have noticed over the 11 Pro. And from a camera perspective, as someone who loves to, there's one of my cats walking around there. As someone who loves to take pictures but doesn't do it for a living, I do really enjoy the software interface and how you can change those modes right within the camera app. I have been a Google Photos user for changing stuff and Prism and a bunch of other apps over the years. I got to tip my hat to Apple on this one. They do a really good job of allowing you to take a picture and slide between different modes decently well. And again, I'm not looking at it from the same level of curiosity as someone like Will would, or someone who spends a lot of time with a real camera. But as a user who loves to take pictures of their cats and their dog and their niece and all that fun stuff, and on a golf course, the ability to slide through a different picture mode now is apparent, and it's easy, and it's super easy to use.
Good stuff. And just a little postscript, the flip side of the promotion variable refresh rate, it also slows down the screen refresh when you're doing things that are less intensive, even because the base rate of most screens is 60 hertz. So when you're watching a TV show or a movie, it'll scale down to 30 hertz, because 30 frames per second is the speed of refresh rate of most filmed video content. So what they're actually seeing is all sorts of battery savings because of that as well. Or when you're doing other things, sometimes if you're just reading an article or something, it'll bring it down to 10 hertz. And we're seeing huge increases in battery life because of that. Yep. So anyhow, welcome to Momentous, where we can turn a story about an Android update into 10 minutes on the latest iPhones.
A little bit of a tangent there.
Yeah, sorry to my wife. Probably screaming.
Exactly. So Android 12 rollout, it's been inducted into the Android open source project, the AOSP, which all the manufacturers go and grab that code and tune it to their hardware needs. Of course, Pixel smartphones will be the first to receive the update, and the upcoming Pixel 6 and Pixel 6 Pro will have Android 12 preloaded when they launch. And I don't think we've got an actual launch date yet, but I'm suspecting at this point probably late October, early November. So with that, let's get into a category we haven't touched on in a little bit. We're going to do this real quick because we got all sorts of fun entertainment stuff to talk about in a moment. This just jumped across my desk, and I thought that Ged might enjoy this. Ford, who just released their F-150 Lightning all-electric vehicle a couple of months ago, and we talked about that here on Momentous. They have a new subcompact truck. It's a hybrid, and it is called the Ford Maverick. Now, being a former Ford guy yourself, Ged, what springs to mind when you see this little guy?
What springs to mind is what Tasia touched on a little while ago when it came to software updates. Oftentimes, your first iteration of something is the most appealing, it's the most exciting, but oftentimes it's going to be the most riddled. I lived through the Focus and Escape fiasco with the clutch from 2014 to 2017, where they couldn't get cars to shift gears properly. Based on what I've read up on the Maverick so far, it looks like they're going to steal a lot of guts from what was the Fusion, which actually did a really good job. It had a 2-liter EcoBoost for its engine and had a hybrid option. They also ran that hybrid in a lot of their Lincoln product. And I hate to admit it, they actually did it quite well. I love the idea of this. I think that this is a massive step forward when it comes to hybrid technology being grossly affordable. If you look at the people that drive a truck, 25% of them probably use it for truck things. Most people that drive a truck, kind of especially within the city, love the convenience. And I really like Ford's kind of play on this being just a very versatile vehicle with a 4.5-foot bed in the back, but that can drive a family of 5 around. So I'm super impressed. I'll be curious to see what it comes out, because they say it starts at $19,000. But what's
US.
it really going to come out to? US. But once you load it up and put some stuff in it, I mean, it's going to be a $45,000 vehicle. It's going to go around a little bit higher than an Escape and a little bit lower than an Edge.
And the reviews have been pretty positive so far, but you never know how much of that is because a bunch of journalists got flown out on a press junket and got to drink for a weekend and play with this fun new truck.
There's
really
a lot of Escape.
Yeah,
there's a lot of Escape in those images. Let me tell you, which semi scares me, but also at the same time, I mean, they've come leaps and bounds.
Yeah, because it's built on basically a little the SUV platform, not the truck platform,
Escape,
correct? Yeah,
correct.
So, and they're really going after the Honda Ridgeline market here. Now, Tasia, I know that you're more of a Corvette gal at heart. What would it take to get you into one of these compact pickups?
Listen,
you're in the right part of the world for it.
You guys also might know from other episodes that my biggest issue is, because I love a hybrid model, I love, electric, whatever. I need that towing capacity. I know this has nothing to do with the Corvette. I know the Corvette can't tow, but like,
what are you towing?
Right? To me, well, it's the potential. What if I get an RV? I don't have one, but what if I get one?
Optionality.
Well, this thing will tow 2,000, 2,500 pounds.
So
even in the hybrid.
Exactly. A small little, RV that I would, I need 5,000 towing capacity. That's what I need. I mean, by need, I mean that. So like, I've talked to you guys about this before. I want a hybrid that has that towing capacity, which does not exist for
there you go.
Reasons.
There you go. How about this little one right here?
Here it is.
For you?
I don't think there's a bathroom in that camper, so
made out of tinfoil.
Yeah, exactly. So
I mean, the Lightning will more than likely be able to do that for you. The all-electric Ford Lightning.
Yeah,
I mean, you're going to spend a massive pretty penny. Yeah. You're going to be $115,000 Canadian, but it'll do it.
That's only like $5,000 US.
I can't wait to see the F-150 Lightnings working on the oil patch. Like the irony will be so.
Yeah.
So I
love the vehicle. I think it's cool. I love where they're going with it. Ford exited the car market a couple of years ago, and I gotta hand it to them. It is diverse. They're doing everything they can with the crossover in the truck market. I think in terms of my neck of the woods, these things are going to do really, really, really well, because there's a whack ton of people driving around in trucks that don't really need truck stuff. They just love the convenience. Quite frankly, it wouldn't take a ton for me to look at one either. Have the summer car and then have something that's super convenient like this.
My question is the rear bed waterproof? Could you use it as a hot tub?
Depending on the lining you pick, nothing's impossible.
Oh, perfect. Okay, let's move on. Unless, Will, you have any amazing, important thoughts to add on pickup trucks? I know you're not much of a truck guy. Should we move on to the next wacky thing?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay.
Yes.
Well, this is just a quick thing because this is just proof we're living in a simulation, to steal a line from another show. Wendy's on social media, on Twitter, announced they've got a phone. introducing the phone you didn't know you needed until now. So there we go. There's some online promo they're doing, and it's basically a viral marketing campaign to get people to install the Wendys app and screenshot their favorite orders, and they can get entered to win one of a limited series of Wendys phones.
It's
So
a really
win.
smart idea. It's
Yep.
so cute.
Yep.
Wendy's has been pretty spicy with on their social media for a number of years now. Whoever's running their Twitter account really needs a raise. But you can see people are doing it. They're sharing screenshots of their orders from the Wendy's app. So it's it went viral like they asked for, and we're talking about it here. It's like I have to admit, like, I'm a fan of Wendy's, and it's an Android phone, fine. But you know what? Wendy's will make me switch if they're going to give me an Android phone.
Hey, they have the technology behind the Frosty. I trust them on this phone thing.
Exactly.
You're not wrong.
So, Any comments, Tasia, from your social media kind of marketing brain? What does this do to you?
I love it. I want to hug the person that came up with this.
Yep.
It's so
Absolutely.
good. It's so good.
And the copywriting on here is pretty special as well too. Where it
It's
just
fantastic.
says, shot on Wendy. If you must take pictures of your food, there's no better way than to do it on the Wendys phone, complete with front and rear facing cameras with more pixels than the Baconator has bacon. So a lot. And then there's like the frequently asked questions. Why did you make a phone? We just felt like it. Can it make calls? Yeah, it's a phone.
So good.
What about text?
Yeah.
It's a phone.
It's a phone.
I wonder how many they're actually going to have, but I bet you those will be flipped on eBay for like a lot of money at some point.
Oh, yeah.
So anyhow, thanks, Wendy's. Let's move on to the entertainment portion of today, where we've got a few things we're going to blast through. One story, and this is we have a couple momentous Star Wars correspondents, and Ged, today you're it. This is an article from a couple weeks ago talking about how Star Wars Visions, is the most exciting Star Wars has been in a long time. Can you explain for us what exactly is Star Wars Visions and where we can find it?
Star Wars Visions is something you can find on Disney Plus, and I have watched all of them. And what I love about Star Wars Visions is it looks like they kind of took the reins off all of the things you could never do as an independent media house and just let people run wild. So it's 9 different episodes done by 9 different anime houses, all telling their own Star Wars short story. There are appearances from people like Boba Fett in it. And it is, as someone who doesn't watch anime, I loved it because it opened up my eyes to anime. What I think Visions has really accomplished is introduced Star Wars to the rest of the world in a way they might like to watch it. It was fascinating. Some of the shows were very strange, but I don't know if I'd say it's the most exciting thing to come out of Star Wars. I mean, we have just come off of The Mandalorian and a bunch of other good stuff. But I mean, it is such a different and unique and cool way to experience the Star Wars universe. The things they do with the Sith, the Jedi, the way they portray the stories. I mean, you have everything from, dark graphic novel sketch type shows like the first episode, which I would watch an entire season of, to stuff midway through, which to me is that very bubblegum, popcorn, music, dancing sort of stuff that I don't understand to save my life. But man, was it a very cool eye opener. And my big hat tip to the folks at Disney and at Lucas. I could never have imagined 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 10 years ago, them being okay with letting this happen.
Having fun with the Star Wars canon. So we first talked about this a few months ago when the original teaser dropped, and we talked about how this is interesting, how Star Wars has kind of come full circle in a way. George Lucas was, inspired by directors, Japanese directors such as Akira Kurosawa, and there's so many notes from the Hidden Fortress that appear in the first Star Wars movie, now known as A New Hope. And Kurosawa, he was actually influenced by a lot of French New Wave directors, avant-garde directors from a couple decades before him as well. And now that we see Star Wars kind of coming back into the Japanese filmmakers' hands through these different anime lenses. Now, I'm not the hugest anime fan, but I'm 3 episodes in, and some of them are like, "Oh, what?" and some of them are like,
Yeah.
"Wow, this is super cool." Now, Will, you're not
They're all
big
fun.
anime. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Will, I know that you haven't watched it yet, which surprises me because you're one of our Star Wars correspondents, and you've been to the Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland and whatnot. So, what has anything that Ged has said? Is it can you maybe convince you to maybe try it out a little, get a couple episodes? I always say 3 episodes of any series to give it a chance.
I mean, I'll watch it eventually. I'm not the biggest anime fan. I have been into some anime or anime affiliate stuff, Ghost in the Shell and Avatar are things I'm fans of, but a lot of anime I'm not. It's sort of like musicals for me. It has to be really good. Like I like a really good musical like Hamilton, but I'm just not into Oklahoma or something. There's Oklahoma fans.
So just not the classics.
Yeah. But I don't know. It has to be special or different for me. I am probably going to watch these. I was also sick last week, so I haven't had all the opportunity I maybe could have to watch it. But for me, I think the other thing with this is it doesn't feel like something I need to run out and watch. It's not canon. It's not something that, like Ged sort of said, they seem like fun episodes. So I think I'll watch it eventually, but I have to say I'm like you, Tristan, as you mentioned, with the sort of coming full circle with Kurosawa and Yojimbo and Hidden Fortress and stuff. I think I feel like I should watch it, but I'm just not super excited that I'm running out watching it.
Yeah, you never want to feel like you're taking your vitamins, right? Like,
yeah.
But I think
also I saw one like this. We talked about this, but the Batman did this about 10 years ago or so, and it was interesting. But there were also there was episodes, to Ged's point, that were like, "Oh, this is really good. Maybe I'd like to watch some more." Oh no, you get to watch this crappy one now. So it was kind of like, just as you're getting into it, they pull you out, they give you something you don't want. So I felt that a bit with the Batman one. There were some very good ones, and then there were some very mediocre ones. So so it's again, for me, it's almost like an experiment. It seems like an experiment, just like a fun take at Star Wars, but not exactly something I'm going to run out and watch. But yeah, I'll watch it eventually, and I'll check back in with you guys.
Maybe we'll get Jamie's take on it as well. I gave him some homework on the Star Wars Vision side. So now, speaking of musicals, anyone who has Apple TV Plus, check out Schmigadoon. I too am not a musicals fan, but it's kind of like a postmodern musical, and it's kind of fun and actually pretty well done. Only watched 1 episode so far, but I'll check it out. Now, Tasia, if someone puts a gun to your head and says you got to watch some Star Wars anime or some musicals, what's it going to be for you?
I think I know.
Don't love either, but I would probably.
Just looking for an option C.
Where's the gun?
I know. Where's the gun? I don't know.
Okay, don't worry about it. We'll let you sleep on that. Now, you're a Netflix lady, though, in all your spare time. And you may have seen that Netflix had, I don't know how to pronounce this, Tudum. They had an event, Tudum, a couple of weeks ago.
It's the sound of the N.
Featuring Tudum, which is an actual anime for all those anime fans there. Oh. And they teased a bunch of other upcoming Netflix series, such as Red Notice. We've got The Rock, Dwayne Johnson there, and Ryan Reynolds. Stranger Things 4, which we'll talk about in a sec. Genius, a doc on Kanye West. Sex Education, Season 4. Bridgerton, Season 2. Sandman. Arcane, which looks animated there. We've got Hellbound, a Korean thriller. Tiger King 2. Okay, I never even saw the first one. Cowboy Bebop, speaking of Japanese cinema there. And Army of Thieves, which we talked about previously, the prequel to the Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead, which focuses on the locksmith, or the safecracker, that is. Conspiracy Theory, the cartoon. And wow, there's so much here. Don't Look Up. Witcher Season 2. So Witcher, that was Henry Cavill in that. So Tasia, given this amazing rundown that that Netflix has teased for us, what grabbed your attention?
Oh, I'm all about Stranger Things.
Really?
So, well, okay.
Aren't they like 30 now, those kids?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. Like
Go, elaborate, please.
Well, from opening scene of season 1, episode 1, I was in. Like, just the moodiness of it and the cinematography, like, I'm obsessed. And then how they left me last season, I was like a puddle of tears and so sad. Even though I knew, like, there's no way, like, I don't want to give it away for anyone that hasn't watched it. I just knew everything was going to be okay, but I was still very sad.
So
is all I'm saying. So, like, this threw me for a loop because it's like all of
the
a
season
sudden,
4 teaser, what's going on?
Yes, we're learning about, like, what is this house? Like, where did it come from? What's the deal with the clock in the house? Like, oh my God, why are they in the house? How do they get to the house? Like, oh boy, I had a lot of questions.
What year is it?
Yes.
Yeah. Looks like late 50s, early 60s there, but I mean,
it's like going back and forth. So
yeah. It looks like they're going to be hopefully tackling a different mystery because they've kind of done Demogorgon to death a bit. I mean, there was, all the conspiracy around that and, the lab and all that sort of stuff. So hopefully it looks like they're expanding the universe a little bit, and they got to do so before those kids end up in an old age home. But so that's the one that speaks most to you of the recent Netflix slate.
Yes, I also love I love Gal Gadot, so like I was interested in the Red Notice thing, but I don't know. After watching the trailer, I was kind of like, I hope this isn't another one of those like, hi, I'm like a hot lady, but also I can kick your butt. So I don't know.
Along the lines of like,
okay.
like Red Sparrow, that was Jennifer Lawrence, and then there was the other one. Maybe a year or two before that. Oh, it's Charlize Theron. What was the movie that she was in where she was the hot lady kicking butt?
Right. Yeah, I know the one you mean. They do, yeah. And like Ryan Reynolds seems very funny in it, and obviously he's quite funny. So I mean, I'm gonna watch it, but
now
we'll have to talk about it after.
Exactly. I'm looking forward to Stranger Things. Well, 2022, they're making us wait. It's just going to be, I don't know what it is they're doing. Ged, as the proprietor of Fabulous Flix, what jumped out at you from the recent announcements of Netflix that we just went through there?
Other than
can't say Stranger Things.
I am. Yeah. It's right. Tasia, I could not agree with you more. I absolutely love it. I've loved it since the first episode. So pumped. I am very much looking forward to Red Notice. I understand that The Rock is always going to be the exact same character, and Ryan Reynolds is always going to be Deadpool. But I love those two characters, and I'll watch them interact all the time. Gal Gadot is fantastic in everything that she does. The one that jumped out at me, the Kanye thing. I loved the intro with Mos Def. I loved 90s hip hop and R&B. So I'm very, very curious to watch that. Obviously, Kanye is no shortage of any type of controversy. I love the show Sex Education. If you haven't watched it, it's so inappropriate. It is literally just a sexual coming of ages of kids. As much as it's dirty, it's stuff that we all literally went through. Super excited about that. And the one that really jumped out at me that I didn't think about was the Bebop.
Cowboy Bebop.
Cowboy Bebop. I loved the look of what they were doing there. I know nothing about it, but I watched the trailer. I'm in. I'm totally down to check it out.
Nice. So Tasia, because as an influencer, she has a lot of demands on her time, so we have to let her go because we've got a couple minutes over here. But Tasia, it was amazing to see you. Can you tell us really quickly about two things you dropped this week?
Oh, yes, I suppose I could. Well, so today, my latest podcast went out, and actually it's on like the triumphant return of QR codes.
Thanks, COVID.
You're going to notice, you're probably already noticing them everywhere. When you start traveling again, they're everywhere. And so I made a little it's like a 9-minute podcast on it because, well, why not? And then my latest YouTube video from this past week Yeah, we're still in the same week. Well, no, last week. What day is it? Where am I? From last week were like tips to speed up your iPhones. If your iPhone's running really slow, it's just super quick 5 things to do to help speed it up. So,
Or just buy a new phone.
or
Throw
just
the old one.
upgrade.
Yeah, throw the old one in the ocean.
Throw it
Yeah.
into the water. Walk to your nearest bridge. Throw the device into the water.
Wonderful.
Solved.
Well, it was great having you back, Tasia, and we look forward to seeing you next week. You're back next week, right?
I should be. Here's hoping.
Because 3 months is a long time. Your fans miss you.
We miss you.
Well,
Yes,
let's not push it.
all
I've
three
never
of you.
met you, and I already miss you.
All 3 of you. You're so kind.
Alrighty, we'll let you sign off
Thanks,
then, and we
guys.
will. And Tasia, we hope your week is truly momentous.
Oh, wow.
And you as well.
You guys have no idea. You have no idea.
Bye.
Okay, bye. We're gonna
Yep.
give you an extra horns. Bye.
Bring.
See, the show's not actually over, but poof, she's gone. So, just a few things to wrap up on the entertainment tip here.
Can I give my take on the Netflix?
Sure, your audio
Yes.
is frapping just a little bit. So,
What? Really?
yeah. Whenever you talk, it's going, but that's
Oh.
okay. Just
Shouldn't
it's
be.
okay.
Yeah. So of those, I agree with all of the things that you guys said. Obviously, Stranger Things. The thing that popped out to me was Arcane. That was the one that was kind of interesting. The animated one, I thought that was very interesting. But we'll see. I'm probably going to give it a chance just on the visual style, and if it, like you say, Tristan, 3 episodes, see how it goes.
I'm just pulling it up right now. All right. Anything else on the Netflix side? Minimize your words because they do sound very strange, and then we'll throw to Ged and let you
I
fix
have
things
no
on your end
idea
if you
what's
can. But so so Arcane. What do you like about this? The visual style you mentioned.
The visual style, the whole sort of Bioshock-ishness of it. I just thought the animation.
Bioshock, the video game from 10-ish years ago. Is that?
Yeah, they made a couple of them. Yeah, they did Bioshock 1 and 2, and then they did a spin-off, which his name is escaping me now. But yeah, just sort of this retro future type of dealio. Enjoyed it. I mean, at least this trailer here.
It definitely has been interesting to see, and we've touched on this before, how it seems that animation informed video game art, and now video game art is kind of informing animation style as well. So you see these interesting hybrid styles emerging in the world of animated features and series. I think part of it has to do with a lot of the same technology is being used for rendering the imagery. But it's ridiculous. There's just so much to choose from, and of course, we get all of these Netflix announcements, and that's great. But Netflix has this gigantic hit on its hand that came out of left field, thanks to all the international development work that Netflix has been doing over the years. And Squid Game just dropped recently. Now people are starting to talk about it on Facebook, when Facebook works. But Squid Game was if anyone's seen maybe like Hunger Games, which was loosely based on, it was a Korean movie that the Hunger Games books, I believe, were inspired by, the name is escaping, Battle Royale. And so now we're seeing Squid Game, which is another kind of thing, like survival of the fittest type thing, pretty dark, but it's been so popular in Korea that it's putting such a burden on the internet service providers, or ISPs, that SK Broadband, one of the big ones there, is suing Netflix, or trying to get them to pay for the bandwidth that's being used by all these people streaming this new show, which is partly popular because it's actually made in Korea, and it's just been a breakout hit there. So, Ged, what is this new world that we're living in here with these these hits? And And how do you feel about internet service providers trying to like extract money out of the content providers just because of the bandwidth usage? Like, I mean, what is it we're supposed to be? We're already paying the internet service providers for this usage, and it's not cheap, although it is cheaper in Korea than a lot of places for extremely fast speeds. What is this new world we're in, Ked?
All right, I think I'll start with the internet service provider thing. The fact that they're trying to get money from Netflix because too many people watch a TV show is absolutely ridiculous. Figure it out. Like, I can't even imagine like being in the room when the executive of this ISP sits down with their lawyer and says, "Here's what I want to do. I want to sue Netflix because they have a show that's so popular, too many people are watching it here. What do you think?" My next words are probably not allowed on this show, so we're just going to skip that. I mean, you guys obviously weigh in after my thoughts on the show itself, but I'm dying to hear your thoughts on this. But this is absolutely ridiculous. The show itself, aside from my feelings on it, I love the fact that we're seeing stuff from all over the world. We touched on it earlier in terms of visions. The world is being like media, our Hollywood media is really being opened up to these incredible production studios around the world. And it's very cool to see. I mean, for me, Parasite was really that first breakout movie. That was something that in no way would I have ever watched. I actually watched it at Gray's place in Vancouver when I was out there with him and Ray. And, but I'll be honest, it is so creepy. It borderline makes me uncomfortable. And maybe that means it's a great show. The concept seems like something that you would have had to have done a fair amount of narcotics to really think that it could run as a show, but they're nailing it. I mean, they're getting people to talk about it. It is graphically gory. It's graphically gory, painted on a bubblegum backdrop. That's
the production design is pretty cool.
Yeah. It's like John Wick got together with the Care Bears and made a show. I watched the first episode. I'm going to watch it because I'm intrigued, but I'll be honest, I might need some psychotherapy afterwards. Will, what are your thoughts on the ISP thing and this whole concept of a show?
I'm with you on the ISP thing. I'm just, suck it up. It's what you do. I mean,
charge more.
Yeah, I mean, I remember too about 10 years ago being in Toronto visiting my sister and my brother-in-law and my niece and nephew, and there being throttling of and my brother-in-law just saying, well, that's what they're doing here. They're throttling us because we're using too much bandwidth. It's like they're throttling you. Anyways, it's just, to me, all of that just seems silly if I'm a customer, but that's maybe a topic for another day. It's interesting. I'm not sure I'm going to keep watching it. For me, it kind of feels like a bunch of things. Obviously, Battle Royale and Hunger Games. And I actually liked Hunger Games a lot. I was surprised about how much I liked Hunger Games. Mm-hmm. Battle Royale is also very interesting. For some reason, too, it also brings up memories of things like The Prisoner, the old TV show that I grew up on. Things also like Chung Yao Fat movies, just partly because like the immense violence of something like Hard Boiled. If you haven't seen the movie, basically Chung Yao Fat walks into a hospital and murders about 120 people trying to get at the big boss. And the amount of graphic ballet gun fu, I think it's called, and the stark violence reminded me of this. I know that that's, Hong Kong cinema versus Korean cinema. So there's very different, but something about, so many people dying in such graphic ways. It just brought up some, I guess, flashbacks to when I was a teenager watching Chung Yao Fat movies. But yeah, what did you think, Tristan?
Well, I think I'm about an episode and a half in so far, and it was hard to ignore the buzz that was happening online, and always up for something new and interesting. And it's the concept. I didn't read up too much on the concept, but I kind of got the idea just from seeing some of the headlines. And it is it seems to be pretty well executed so far. It is dubbed in English. The dubbing is pretty well done. I believe you could just do the subtitles if you prefer. And to Ged's point, I like the fact that companies like Netflix, because of their international reach and their investment in local film production in a number of the countries in which they operate, is starting to pay dividends for their international audience, and it's getting people interested in cinema from other countries. Like I think with the series Dark was on Netflix as well. Wasn't that from like somewhere in Scandinavia, Norway or something? Again, that was a lot of
German.
people who didn't think.
Yeah.
Was it German? Okay. A lot of people think,
Yeah.
who wouldn't ever expect to or enjoy watching shows with subtitles are doing that now because some of the stories are just so compelling. You're getting access to the best of the best around the world. The production design, like I said, is wild. It's just this very strange mashup of like the bright colors and the horrifying violence. And maybe I'm a little desensitized. The violence doesn't seem that horrifying to me, but maybe it's going to get worse. The music choices are jarring as well. Very happy-go-lucky. There's a lot of jazz in there too. Lots of classical. So pretty cool. As regards the SK Broadband issue, now. This is something that is not uncommon in Korea. In 2020, the National Assembly actually passed legislation that saying that the content providers that have over 1 million users and over 1% of the traffic on a given network have to provide service stability guarantees. So I believe some of the other players in the space have forked over this money, although Netflix has countersued in the past. Now, at the end of the day, it's like, either the ISPs got to going to raise their fees, or Netflix and the other content providers are going to raise their fees. And one way or the other, the consumer's going to end up paying for it. The thing is, no one wants to be the bad guy, right? Now, the idea is that Netflix and other content providers are making a case for people to want to get really good broadband internet access plans that they can, with it's fiber and gigabit and all this kind of stuff. You have so many people using various devices in a single household nowadays. So that you think that the ISPs would appreciate the fact that Netflix is so popular. But they have their cost structures as well, and there's a lot of infrastructure and a lot of capital costs there. So I mean, of course they got to ask. But now, if this is successful, I wouldn't be surprised you're going to start to see this in other places around the world, because other jurisdictions have done this. And Netflix has had to fork over money to others in the past in some jurisdictions. But the question is, will this be a trend? And then will others like Amazon Prime Video, Apple TV Plus, they're not as big, but they're growing. Are they going to have to start ponying up as well? And that means they'll be raising their prices. So yeah, you got to pay one way or the other.
Yep.
So speaking of paying, HBO Max reveals new teaser trailer for Game of Thrones prequel, known as House of the Dragon. Now, Will, you and I watched most of the Game of Thrones series together over the course of several years. Every couple of weeks, we would get together and with a couple other friends and watch Game of Thrones. So what are your initial thoughts on this House of the Dragon teaser starring Matt Smith of Doctor Who fame?
I mean, I'm interested. I'll certainly watch it. I know for some people that they're pretty mad about the last season of Game of Thrones, and
it felt rushed. Yeah,
it was rushed. I'm not actually. I mean, there's a whole nother conversation, but I thought the ending wasn't bad. It was just that it wasn't developed, and it was a bit too sharp a turn, I think, for some people. But a lot of the notes I liked. It was just that it needed more time and more development. I'm interested in this, but these like prequels, they actually just did one with The Sopranos that I haven't had a chance to watch yet. And obviously, the Star Wars prequels and stuff like that. It does feel like a little bit of an add-on. It's for fans. It's not continuing the story on. If you love it, great. I don't think it's going to bring new people in, but if you desperately want some more content, I'm all in on this. I'm very keen on The Sopranos prequel movie as well. So I mean, I'm in, but I don't think this is a major move forward for the franchise.
Ged, were you a Game of Thrones fan? Did you watch the original series?
1,000% yes.
So, House of the Dragon, what are your thoughts?
Will, you literally could not have said it better. There is nothing more I can add than what Will has already said. It is fan service. It's great fan service. To be honest, we can sit here and say that we're 6 out of 10 excited about it all we want. But the night it premieres, we're all going to be sitting in front of our TVs or our theater rooms or whatever. We're going to grab a drink and some popcorn, and we're going to sit down and we're going to digest all of the content, because that franchise brought us so many wicked memories over so many years that, I mean, obviously we all probably have that same fear. Just please don't blow it. House of the Targaryen is something that we were all probably very, very curious about during the actual series of Game of Thrones. In a way, we've all been looking forward to this. My biggest fear is they just screw it up. And I really hope that that's not the case, because, yeah, I'm in. My only gripe about Game of Thrones and House of Targaryens is very techie and nerdy. They do such a good job with dark scenes, and streaming this content never does it justice. If I wasn't so impatient, I would wait for the 4K release, but I'm not going to.
Yeah, that's the trouble with streaming, and we saw that a number of episodes in the last couple of seasons of Game of Thrones. A lot of the dark scenes, you've got this splotchy macro blocking from the compression.
Yeah, the long night, right? I mean, that episode could have been so good, and everyone went, "Was it supposed to be? I can't see anything. Gray, like what's happening over there? Like,
is this the lights DC universe?
Disappeared."
Yeah. You know, Stranger Things.
Is that you dying in the corner? Like, it just.
Stranger Things can be the same way. Stranger Things can be hard to watch as well sometimes in the dark scenes.
Yeah, especially when you're in the upside down. So to be fair, this, the cynical take might be, oh, this is a cash grab, et cetera, et cetera. However, this is actually, canonical material. The Game of Thrones series of books were just had so much content to them. And in the main series, they focused on the, quote unquote, modern day storyline. But what this series does is actually pulls a lot of its content from the book Fire and Blood, which I can't remember which book it is in the series, but there's a lot of content in the books talk about the prehistory, kind of like Lord of the Rings does. There are entire chapters of Lord of the Rings that are just like poems and stuff, like talking about the good old days, right? Same kind of thing here. So it's not like they're going outside of the canon necessarily, aside from the way that HBO normally does. So this is George R.R. Martin content. I don't think he's even finished the last Game of Thrones book. I wonder how similar to season 8 it's actually going to be. But I enjoyed Game of Thrones. I haven't read the books myself, so I've been sort of a casual fan. And for me, it was just as much about getting together with friends to watch it. And we'll have to decide whether or not you're going to spring for HBO or Crave here in Canada, or if we're going to watch it together again.
We'll figure it out. We'll watch it.
All right, looking forward to it. And when does that actually? 2022, of course. Yeah, no actual season. Sometime in 2025. Yeah, 10 episodes. 10-episode order. This is and then last up we have a story that we didn't get a chance to get to last week, but I just thought it was kind of fun. There is a Super Mario Brothers movie in production, and they released some of the cast names doing the voiceover, including the super controversial pick of Chris Pratt, a non-Italian, playing the Italian plumber Mario. Also, we've got Keegan-Michael Key as, I believe, as a Toad, and Anya Taylor-Joy from Queen's Gambit, and Seth Rogen was Seth Rogen. Oh no, Charlie Day plays Luigi. And Seth Rogen plays Donkey Kong. So
yeah,
there you go. So Will, as our official Super Mario correspondent, what are your thoughts on these casting announcements and the whole prospect of another Super Mario Brothers movie after, was it 22 years?
Yeah,
93, right?
Yeah. I mean, I like the old cartoon back in the day, back in the, I guess it was late 80s, early 90s. I mean, I don't mind this cast. I mean, these are great voice actors and great actors. So, I'm going to keep an open mind and we'll see how it goes. I'm a big Chris Pratt fan. I'm a big Charlie Day fan. Key and Peele, love Key and Peele. So, all good as far as I'm concerned. So I the internet's going to internet. So if people are upset, they're welcome to it. But I'm interested in this.
And we've got some the directors from Teen Titans Go and Teen Titans Go to the movie. So I wonder if the animation style is going to be similar to the
I love
Titans.
Teen Titans Go, by the way. You might not know this, but I am a big fan of Teen Titans Go, especially some of the stuff that came out. I mean, it's been going on for a while, but when they had the initial run of Teen Titans Go, like 10, 15 years ago, but even some of the movie that they came out with recently was fun. I like Teen Titans and that animation styles, like a little bit Dexter's Lab kind of stuff, fun and whimsical, and Powerpuff Girls type of stuff.
So as Ged mentioned, there was a Super Mario Brothers movie, came out in 1993. So what we're looking at 18 years. It'll be 19 years by the time this new movie comes out in December 2022. So we've got another full year plus to get excited about it. Ged, how much of a Mario stan are you, and what's your excitement level for this movie?
I'm in. I'm 8 out of 10. I grew up in the 80s, 1985, The Wizard, a young, what's his face from the Wonder Years, where they introduced Super Mario 3, a whole new game, Fred Savage. I'm in. And here's the thing. The people that are getting mad at the casting choice for Super Mario are the same people that are mad because their Facebook went down yesterday and they couldn't get updates. Like, this is Super Mario. This is not the Pope or Manchester United or the Toronto Maple Leafs or whatever you hold as close to religion as possible. This is an Italian plumber and his brother. Like, the cast is awesome. I love the entire lineup. I'm 1,000% in. People need to not look too far into this and just enjoy it. The key to this movie coming out is for the people that are our age being able to show the next generation, whether it's our kids or our nieces, experience some of the joy that we got to experience kind of in the 80s and 90s with these characters growing up. To me, this should be about paying homage, not about why is Chris Pratt not Italian? Like,
yeah. And I'm not sure how much actual outrage there was about that, but all it takes is one person with 34 followers on Twitter to mention it, and then it takes on a life of its own. I think the larger issue is that will there be some point in the movie where, since it features Donkey Kong, that Donkey Kong will ask Mario, "Hey, wait a second, plumber, when we first met, you were a carpenter."
Yeah.
When did the career change happen?
Right.
Sorry, too deep a cut. Wasn't your name Jumpman? Because in the original Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
Never mind. We've lost the audience. Okay.
Yeah.
So
he had a hammer. We get it.
So we'll see. I mean, who am I kidding? Will and I will probably see it in the theaters.
Oh yeah,
of course.
I will.
Tell me now. Gray, he'll probably still be holed up with his 75-inch screen at home. I don't know when he's going to make it out to the theaters, but we'll have to keep teasing him about that. Ged Smythe, Fabulous Flix. You haven't been producing as much lately, much to my chagrin and sadness. But your latest video from a couple of weeks ago was a review of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and it was a little bit different than your usual format. Can you tell us real quick about that before we let you go?
Yeah, I mean, we have a group of friends that we've been watching movies with. They come over to the theater room, which, as you guys know, is my pride and joy in life. I've been asked a million times to do like a video walk around of it, but I just can't bring myself to do it yet. And they have a son, Matthew, who is very techie, very nerdy. He is really into the MCU. He's really into Teen Titans. He's just a nerd. He's just a young version of us. And I asked him almost half joking if he would be willing to join me. And obviously he was a little bit nervous to start, but as I've watched this kid kind of grow up over the last 5 years, and it was something different. So we did the shoot at their place in Aberfoyle. And yeah, I haven't been producing much. I've been on my good friend, the Rogue Leaders channel, a whole bunch. Just doing kind of focused Star Wars stuff. But this was a lot of fun. And again, it was really more about getting the young guy involved. The movie itself, I really enjoyed the acting. The kid from the kid from Kim's Convenience killed it. The story was fantastic. It moved along well. The MCU is definitely moving into that next generation. My only gripe about the movie is, and I mentioned this during the review, is the first three phases of the MCU, Tony Stark was really made to be the man, the character, what the entire thing was going to revolve around. And they did that very subtly between himself as a character, Happy Hogan, his integration into these other characters. Obviously, Doctor Strange is going to become the key fixture going forward, and they're beating us over the head with a mallet on it. Like it's not subtle. It's like a 10-car pileup. I get it. Doctor Strange is important. You don't have to smash me in the face with it all of the time. That'd be my only gripe. But other than that, I really enjoyed it. Have you guys seen it?
Yeah, I think Will and I saw it together, and with our respective better halves. And Will, what were your thoughts on it?
I mean, I'm a massive Marvel fan. I'm a massive MCU fan. They are very. It's a very interesting exploration. This is unprecedented in our times. The way that all these movies are coming out. I'm a fan of a lot of the source material from Marvel. Obviously, being a massive fan, I love how they're bringing in. And this movie, for me, might be one of the best transitions from a Marvel character to bring it to the big screen. And one of the things is that the actual character Shang-Chi is somewhat, he was popular in the 70s as part of the Bruce Lee sort of kung fu craze. He was called the Master of Kung Fu. That was the name of his book. It was a little bit one-dimensional. It was kind of getting on this craze of blaxploitation and kung fu movies that were coming out. And if you look back at the original source material, some of it is pretty limited. Some of it is more dodgy. They've had to change some characters. I loved what they did with using a character, bringing it into mainstream. And I have many Asian friends who were very excited about this. And this really sort of played on Asian culture, brought in a lot of Asian culture sort of myths and stories. They turned the rings, which, spoiler alert, in the Marvel comic books are actually rings on the Mandarin's fingers, and they turn them into this thing, almost sort of those iron rings from kung fu movies, where people use them on their arms as sort of weapons and defensive mechanisms. So I just love all how they modernized the character, honored Chinese traditional culture, and really made something that you could look back on negatively, and actually were able to almost retcon it and bring it into the MCU in a positive way.
Yeah. I look forward to future collabs between Fabulous Flix and Will Silver to get into the nitty gritty of the MCU. Because
I would love to have you on. If there's any way that you would join me for any type of review, man, it would literally be my pleasure.
I'd love to. Give me an email.
Perfect.
Welcome to Momentous, the show where we network with one another.
Cross promotion.
Well, I mean, I've known Tristan. I've known you for years, and Will, obviously, I've known you kind of casually through that time. But I admit, like, I couldn't stop grinning when you were talking about how passionate you were about the MCU, and that's something I didn't know about you and didn't know that we had in common. So it's kind of awesome, man.
Quick little point of trivia about the actor who plays Shang-Chi, Simu Liu, who many people know from Kim's Convenience. We're into season 3 of The Expanse, and he shows up in there. It's like, wait a sec, I know him. So it's neat how movies like this, the mainstream, it gives you a new appreciation for actors, and also sometimes it makes you go and explore some of their back catalog as well. We're just kind of doing that accidentally, but it is really neat to see some of the texture coming to the MCU, kind of like we were talking about with Netflix and their international strategy with the local content production, giving us things like Squid Game. And spoiler alert about Squid Game, and it's interesting because it ties into the whole thing about the ISPs wanting Netflix to pay. It's just kind of like Parasite. It was capitalism all along. So, just look at how the games work, and it's I mean, it's a little bit on the nose, but anyhow, survival of the fittest. So, thanks so much, Ged, for sharing your thoughts with us over. We nailed it, just an hour, right? That was a perfect hour.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, it's 20 to 12 here. It is late.
We appreciate your input, and maybe someday we'll have you on again if you can handle it. We look forward to future episodes of Fabulous Flix, and do share the link with us for the other shows that you're appearing on. It was called Rogue Leader?
The Rogue Leader. Yeah.
Rogue Leader. All right. We'll get a link from you, and
he
we'll
runs a Star
notes.
Wars specific channel. He does a great job. He gets into shorts. Him and I collab a lot. He's an encyclopedia of the Star Wars universe. He's super cool.
Awesome. All right. And William Silver, as always, great to have you back, bud. You unfortunately broke your streak, but now you're going to start on a new one. And Ged, we're going to hope to have you back again soon to talk about trucks and movies and maybe some cars and all the good things.
Look forward to it.
And we got to do this one more time, gentlemen. I hope both of you have a week that is truly momentous.